and welcome to Tullahoma's Cooking. I am your host, Kelly Lepchinsky, and as you can see once again today I am cooking in my home kitchen just because. Now there's a dish I want to make for you today and it's called Manchurian tacos. Now, Manchurian in cooking actually is a term that refers to the process you're using, just like you julienne fries. And in this process, it basically means that you're chopping up all of your components into little bite-sized pieces that are then deep fried. Now, usually when you make a Manchurian dish, that deep fried component gets cooked with some sort of a soy sauce. We are making tacos today. We are not going to be using soy in any form, but Manchurian tacos is certainly a heck of a lot more fun to say than a taco egg roll. And that is basically what we are going to be making here today. Now, to do that, we have to start with our taco meats and our taco fillings. But first, I need to tell you, I've got off camera, where you can't see it just yet, a deep fryer that is coming up to temperature. Now, if you've seen me try to fry before, you know why. I am not going to attempt to pan fry egg rolls. But you can see right here, this is not a clean pan. This is the pan that I used to cook my brown my ground meat. Now, I did that off camera, so you didn't have to watch that, but we are going to want to go ahead and saute the other components for our taco meat. I have half of a white onion, about 3 cloves of garlic, and half of a serrano pepper here, and they are going to go into the pan and help to deglaze it by picking up some of that left behind meat flavor that was in the pan when the meat was cooked. Now, we are basically just attempting to saute this. You didn't see me add any oil because I had it in with the onions sitting over there next to the stove. And I'm using oil and not butter for this particular saute because we're going to be deep frying in oil, and I like to keep my fats, I like to keep them matched up. So right now we've got our onion, our garlic, and our serrano pepper, and you can probably see and hear that it's picking up some of that leftover goodness from browning the meat. Now, while that's cooking down a little bit, I'm going to switch over here, bring in, you knew this was coming, my little handy dandy cart so that you can see what I'm doing on camera. And we're going to prepare our Pico de Gallo. Now, this is going to get wrapped up in the egg roll and fried just along with anything. And it doesn't have to be Pico de Gallo. Think of how you top your tacos and what you like in your tacos. I like refried beans. We're going to use those a little bit later. Then meat and cheese and tomato and lettuce. Now, some people actually fry the lettuce in their egg roll. I like to have it crispy on the side, and you'll see that later as well. You might even use cabbage, like a spring roll or an egg roll. Anything that you can imagine that you can fit into this egg roll is happily going to make it into your taco. Now, what I have over here, I should probably tell you. To make our Pico de Gallo, I've got a couple of Roma tomatoes. I may use both of them. I may only use one, depending on how much onion this comes out to be. I have another clove of garlic that I will be adding in. And if you're not familiar with the trick of a clove of garlic, I may have already taken the skin off that one. And yes, indeed I have. But if you just press it with your knife, the skin will fall right off. That one already is skinless, so I just take off the edge right there. And we're going to chop that little guy up to go into our Pico de Gallo. I have the other half of the serrano pepper. I told you right in here where we're sauteing our onions and garlic and pepper that I had half of the serrano pepper de-seeded. I'm going to do the same thing to the other half right here, and I've left it with the seeds in and the center in so that you can see I'm just going to pick that right up down the middle, run my knife through. And generally you don't want to cut towards your hand, so let's do that the other way. That'll be a little bit better. And there we go, just taking our seeds out. I don't even care if it cuts up the pepper a little bit there because we are going to be chopping it up for our Pico de Gallo. And then I also have the other half of the white onion. So while that's sauteing over there, we're going to keep this nice and crisp and fresh for our Pico de Gallo. Now here's We're going to get rid of, by the way, this little center part and these seeds. A lot of the heat comes in that vein and in those seeds. I don't mind keeping a few of them, but we don't really need a hot Pico de Gallo, at least not in my house. If you really are a fan of the heat, then you're probably not using a serrano pepper, you're probably using a jalapeno pepper. Again, completely up to you and your preference. Now I'm going to use my little handy dandy device here, my bench scraper, and get this into our bowl. And how are we doing over there? This looks good. Okay, I don't know if you can see it. We've got our onions and goodies here sweated down, ready to go. So I'm now going to add the meat back in with the seasoning. We'll come back to our Pico de Gallo. I just want to keep an eye on this. So we are going to add our previously browned ground beef right in here. This was a pound of ground beef. And we will get that cooking and back in there melding with the flavors of our onion, garlic, and pepper. And then I also have 1 ounce of taco seasoning. Now you may buy whatever taco seasoning floats your boat. In my house, I like to make my own. It's just chili pepper, cumin, a little bit of cornstarch for thickening, a little onion powder, a little garlic powder, and just till it smells the way that I like it. As I mentioned, the cornstarch is in there for thickening, and to thicken the cornstarch, we're also going to add just a little bit of water. In fact, I'm probably going to put about another ounce in there, just like you would add, I might even do 2 of them. You usually add about, what, 3/4 of a cup to a packet of taco seasoning, so we'll do that. Just going to let that cook down, get it mixed up really well first. Just make your taco meat the way you make your taco meat on taco night. This is not the hard part of the process. In fact, none of this is really a hard part of the process. It's just something unique and different so that Taco Tuesday can be, you know, not the same as it was last Taco Tuesday. Just make it a little bit more interesting. All right, now we're going to let all that, I'm going to bring up my heat a little bit, let that simmer, and we'll finish up our Pico de Gallo. Now, you don't necessarily need to watch me chop all of this. So let me tell you a little bit. I've told you about the onions. I've told you about the tomato. I didn't mention the lime, and I didn't mention the cilantro. Now, I know that there are people who are not a fan of cilantro, and that's okay. It doesn't make or break this dish. I happen to really, really like it. Now, the funny thing about cilantro is that it's a genetic thing, whether you like it or don't like it. It's just like when you were in high school or middle school and they brought you litmus paper. Some people could taste that PTC chemical on it and really react to the litmus paper, and some people didn't taste it at all. They just, I have got paper in my mouth. It's kind of the same thing with cilantro, but it's because of your sense of smell, not your sense of taste. This earthy, woody flavor or smell that comes off of cilantro is a kind of a top note that not everybody can smell. Those who can smell it really, really love cilantro. But those who can't smell it only smell the next sort of layer down, the next scent down, which is an unsaturated aldehyde. And it makes the mind think of and taste soap. So if you love cilantro, congratulations, you are probably a super smeller. And you may have also been a super taster when you tried that litmus test. If you don't like cilantro, as I said, leave it out. Not a big deal. I am going to be using cilantro today. Now, when you're using cilantro, I'm going to get rid of this bit that was a little bit soggy because I had it in a vase of water. But I do like to use the stems. There's a lot of flavor in those little stems. You don't have to use just the leaves. I may be using a little bit much for the amount of onion and pepper in there, but eyeball it, just eyeball it. So we're going to get tomatoes, onions, cilantro into our bowl. I haven't done a bit of onion yet, but let's just do a little bit so I can spritz it with some lime. And we'll get that in there and show you what we're going for. I'll finish this up on a commercial break because, once again, I don't think you need to watch me chop all this goodness here. But you'll just take at least the juice of half of a lime and spread it in there. Now, limes are not like lemons. You don't have to hold them upside down in your hand to keep the seeds from going into your final bit. But that's it. I'll finish chopping up all of this. We'll get our Pico de Gallo going. It definitely needs more onion than what I've done thus far, but I'm going to do that in a commercial break. We're going to let this cook down, and it's pretty close now. So you can see we've got our taco meat, and actually it's going to continue cooking for a little while, but I'm going to let it bring down to room temperature because you want this filling to have cooled before you start putting it into an egg roll wrapper. And that's a process that we're going to want to come back to. This is done. I will finish this in the commercial break, and we'll come back right after this. And welcome back to Tullahoma's Cooking. Now, once again, today we are making Manchurian tacos, and now we start to see what separates the taco from the Manchurian, and that is the introduction of our egg roll wrapper. I have about I have quite a bit more. They're very thin egg roll wrappers right here, and you just want to put one of them in front of you with the point toward you. If you've never made egg rolls before, it's not really that hard, but you do have to be careful about how much filling you're putting inside because you want to make sure it all seals up, seals tightly, and none of that stuff comes out, gets into the hot oil on its own and spatters. It needs to be self-contained. Now, usually with an egg roll wrapper, these may be a little bit smaller. We're going to test. But usually with an egg roll wrapper, you can get about 3 ounces of whatever your filling is into the wrap and still get it tightly sealed. So we're going to use our handy dandy number 16 2-ounce disher to get 2 ounces of our meat mixture, and that'll give us about an ounce of wiggle room to play with our other ingredients. But before we do that, I told you earlier, I like refried beans in my tacos, and I also feel like they help sort of seal the deal and keep this whole mess together. So I put just a little smear. Now remember, you only got 3 ounces to play with, so don't put too much down in there. Just a little smear of your refried beans, then your 2-ounce disher. Okay, and if you're not sure, if you've got an ice cream scoop or a disher at home and you're not sure, they usually are labeled somewhere along the line here, but you can always test against a measuring cup. I think 2 ounces is, well, here we get into that shot glass comparison again, but about 1/4 cup. Does that sound right? 1/5 cup, maybe. Anyway, you can figure out that conversion. Now here we've got our 2 ounces of meat mixture. And we're going to go for our Pico de Gallo. Now here's another interesting little bit of tidbit. Pico de Gallo means beak of the rooster. Now what that has to do with tomatoes or onion or jalapeno if you use them, in our case it was serrano peppers, or cilantro, nothing. But watch how I pick up my pico. Bark! There's my beak of the rooster right there. And then I'm going to add some cheese, which I guess technically is also a pico de something, but I don't know what bird eats cheese. You figure that out for me. Now, with this toward us, the diamond toward us, we're going to bring this up just like we were making a burrito. And fold it over, sort of bring the fillings back a little bit, right, so that you can make sure you've got some room to fold. And I've got a little bit of water right here to help me seal the edge. I'm just going to wet that edge down, put it right on the flat part, and see how it's sort of made. It's not a tight seal, but it's just enough to hold it in place while I get our toppings in there and fold over the sides, because remember, we need this to be tight. So we're going to fold one side. I think this is the same fold if you saw our guumki, our, what was it, stuffed cabbage episode. It's the same fold. You just want to get everything tight. I'm going to sort of wet it down. And there you go. You've got your little pocket that you're going to fold over and wet that corner so that it will kind of revert back to the dough that made the wrap, you know, just get it a little bit wet and make sure we're tightly sealed. Now there you go. There's one of them. And we'll make a few more. Once again, you're just going to have diamond towards you, that little bit of refried beans. In my case, once again, if you don't like refried beans, don't put them in. If you want to try, you know, be brave and fry your lettuce, put that in. If you want to try cabbage in there, put that in. Pico de Gallo right there. And that was a pretty big beakful there. And some cheese. And there you go. Now, you may be thinking, when I eat a taco, I like to put sour cream. Do I want to fry my sour cream? Well, no. We're going to actually be making a sour cream avocado topping for these, for when they come out of the fryer. We'll be doing that in the next segment. Now, I am working with a deep fryer here. That really, I don't think you're going to see anything on camera if I tried to fry these for you on camera. So just know, you've probably seen frying on other cooking shows or, elsewhere on television. Once these are all folded up and tightly sealed and have dried just a little bit, because I wet those edges, and we want to make sure that they actually have sealed up, they are solidly packed, and that they're going to hold. So give them just a minute, lay them on that flap side, give them just a minute to make sure that they keep their hold. And then I'm going to go ahead and put these into the fryer. Or maybe I'm not. Maybe we'll do that last minute. But I am going to keep rolling these while I make up my mind about that. So we're going to take a commercial break. I'm going to make a few more of these tacos, and we will see you back in just a couple minutes. And welcome back to Tullahoma's Cooking. Once again, we are working on Manchurian tacos today. Now you can probably see there in the shot, I did not fry them yet. They are still setting up. They're probably good to go, but we're going to get some of our other stuff ready first. And I did want to make a point that I didn't make while we were wrapping about the Pico de Gallo. There's a reason I made it fresh on the day that we're wrapping the egg rolls, and that is, if you let pico sit for a while, all that moisture from the tomato becomes a very liquid substance. If you let that sit overnight, if you're trying to use day-old pico, it's going to be very, very, very wet, and that is not good for the egg roll wrappers. So you do want to wrap up your egg rolls as soon, do that right before you wrap up your egg rolls and have a somewhat dry substance there. Now, I only made 4 because I'm the only one here today and I don't need to fry a bunch of egg rolls for a horde, but you do want to make as many as you want to serve. Now, your ingredients are going to store better on their own than they are in the egg roll wrapper, even after it's fried. You can reheat them in the oven after you've got them fried, but it's probably a better idea to have your ingredients and make them to go. You saw it didn't take long to roll them. It won't take long to fry one, but that's not where we are yet, because the best thing about these, when they come out deep fried as a taco egg roll, is of course what you're going to have on the side. You need something to dip them in. You're going to have your salsa, you're going to have a little more of your Pico de Gallo, and we're going to make an avocado sour cream. Now, I'll be honest with you, I have not ever made this before, but it just sounds so good and like such a lovely thing to dip those into that I want to. It also sounds very easy. And by the way, before we go any further, let's set this to rest. Your 2-ounce disher is indeed 1/4 of a cup. All right, so there you go. I know it's water. You can't see what I'm doing there, but there you go. So number 16 disher, 2 ounces, 1/4 cup, 2 ounces. So if you don't have a number 16 disher and you're trying to follow along with 2 ounces, your 1/4 cup is exactly what you need. Now, if you've never cut an avocado before, you want to be very careful about this and only go about halfway in, because you're going to hit a pit. I've already hit it. So you just want to kind of work around that pit until you've gone all the way around. And I didn't quite finish that circle, but this is a very ripe avocado. And then sort of go counterclockwise with it and break it in 2. Now I've got one side with no pit and one side with a pit, and because I'm on camera, I bet you this will not work. But you can just, there we go, pull the pit out just by putting your knife right into it. It did get a little bit of avocado on it, so I'm going to go ahead and knock that off into our makeshift. Well, it's not makeshift. It's a word processor. No, I'm a word processor. That is a food processor, but not an electric one. I don't have an electric one. I don't usually do things that require one very often, but this little dish we are definitely going to want to kind of mix up a little bit. So a spoon, a regular spoon, just dipped into the shell of your avocado will take out all of your filling for you that you want to have there. And right there at the top, there's a little bit of brown. Maybe somebody had tipped off the tip to see if it was ripe yet, and it got a little oxygenated, so I'm not going to use that part of that avocado. And the recipe that I'm using right now, again, I'm only making 4 tacos, and it's just me in the house. I'm making half of this recipe. If you're making this for your family, use 2 avocados and then double everything else I'm about to say, unless you don't like cilantro. Because once again, I'm making this sort of a cilantro lime. So instead of 1 avocado, use 2. This is an 1/8 of a cup. As it happens, I have a measuring cup set that includes an 1/8. But if you're making it at full strength, that 1/4 cup is exactly what you want to go in there with your avocado. And then I, of course, am going to use more cilantro. And even though I know this is a processor, I'm still gonna, just because of that stalkiness of it, and I've never used this machine before either, I'm gonna go ahead and break it up just a little first. And that was, again, well, I didn't measure that because I like cilantro, but keep it with your sour cream. I used an 1/8 of a cup of sour cream. That was approximately an 1/8 of a cup of cilantro. Honestly, it was probably more like a 1/4 cup. And then just whatever was left over from those limes that I used earlier in the Pico de Gallo. There's probably not a lot because I was pretty aggressive with them then, but I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of that lime into my avocado cream. Now you can see it sort of dripping off the edge of my knife there as I do this, and I don't mind if I get some of the solids of the lime in there either. It's all good. I've got 2 halves to do that too, so we'll get that in there. And then I forgot to go ahead and preset my my lid to this processor. There we go. Look at that. We are getting some lime. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Garbage bowl right there. And that was an avocado. Here we go. So let's see how this works. You're coming along for the ride with me on this one. Lock it into place, and we're going to just spin it up. I think it's getting a little bit of resistance from the stalkiness. Oh, but can you see it behind that bowl? Maybe not. Here you go. You can see that turning into that creamy avocado, that sour cream, and it's going to have that flavor of cilantro and lime, or no cilantro if that's your preference. So let's see how much we really need to mix that up. Not that much. I got one stalk there that didn't really get down into the mix. But what we have right here is let's use this bowl real quick. I'm just going to give it a quick rinse here. I probably need to rinse some of that cilantro off of my hands as it is. All right. And dry her off just a tad. And I think I also just took my spatula over there, but that's okay because what's on the spatula is our sour cream. Sour cream's in that mix. Let's see how this looks. I gotta tell you, I haven't tasted this yet. You know what it needs? You know what it definitely needs without even thinking about it? A little bit of salt. Just a little, just a tad, because we only use 1 avocado here. I'm going to put that little thing right back together real quick and get that salt incorporated. You almost always need just a little bit of salt. When you're blending flavors like this, the salt really kind of helps them meld together. Now, this isn't that much more pleasant than the whir of a blender or a whir of a, I keep wanting to say word processor. But there you go. That's just me. Now, yeah, we got a little bit of sour cream that didn't make it in there, but we've taken the blade out. We can mix that in. And now we've got this lovely green avocado, cilantro, lime, dipping sauce to go with our tacos. Now, of course, what does that mean we've got left? Well, the tacos. So I think we'll take one last break, and we'll get the tacos into the fryer there and plate them up and see what we've got after this. Okay, welcome back. Now we are ready to start frying these Manchurian tacos. I've got my plate ready to go because you want to eat them as soon as they come out and they're warm after they had just a minute to drip off that very hot grease. So what I have here is my fresh lettuce, and I've made that as a bed for some salsa, some pico de gallo, and of course our little avocado cream sauce that we just made. Now I have given that a little bit of a taste, and I'm thinking it would be even better if you like a green tomatillo or tomatillo salsa. You could add a little bit of that into the mix too, just a little bit more, something a little more tangy than just the lime. Would really, really, really advance that that cream sauce. But we do have salsa on the plate, or in this case picante sauce on the plate. They're going to get sort of all melded together once you're digging into your tacos anyway. So let's just look at those. These are just freshly rolled. I'm just making sure that they are all sealed and have dried enough that the water's not going to react with our oil. I've brought the fryer into the frame for you, and I think I'm going to try to do these 2 at a time. Now they should take them out of the oil there. They should take 2 to 3 minutes. So let's just dip them right there in the oil. There you go. I was a little worried there. I wasn't hearing them start to fry. This sets at 350, which is such an advantage over if you watch the episode where I tried to fry chicken on the stove top in a very low amount of oil. I couldn't keep that temperature regulated very well. The nice thing about one of these little fryers, and this is a little one, you just saw I only put 2 small egg rolls in it. The nice thing about this is it will keep it at 350 for me, so I don't have to worry about that. So you would do these in batches. You may have a larger fryer. You may be more comfortable with pan frying than I am. And hey, you know, to each their own. The only thing that matters here is the end result. So what we're sort of looking for, if you've ever eaten an egg roll before, you're looking for basically the same thing. You want it to be brown on all sides. Now we're starting to see, unfortunately I can't get the camera in there where you can see it, but we are starting to see it's already bubbling up a little bit. We're starting to see where maybe the other side's going to get a little bit brown, and then we're going to be ready to flip these over. Okay, so a quick fast forward there, because before we go to commercial break, I do want to see if I can get these where you can see that I've got them golden brown on one side and turned them over. So I don't want to pull them apart, but you can, here we go. So you can sort of see, maybe in the camera there, they're still very light, still egg wrappery on that side. I think I just punctured a hole in one of them, so we may get a interesting splatter here. But you got a very golden brown done on that side. Once you've got them golden brown and bubbly on one side, you can even see some dark brown there at the bottom. That's time to turn them over, stick them back in the oil, and let them go at it on the other side. So we are just minutes away from having 2 of our tacos ready to go, ready to eat. We're going to let them finish up in there, and we'll come right back after this. And welcome back to Tullahoma's Cooking. We are at the end stage of our Manchurian tacos. You can see I took these out of the fryer and let them drip off just a little bit of the oil, particularly anything that is caught in that flap. They are dripping right there onto our pan, but they're good to go. Good to go now. Let's give them a try right there on our plate. Okay. We have our 2 egg roll tacos, Manchurian tacos, some salsa, some pico, some of that avocado cream. Now I did test my theory that mixing the avocado cream with some salsa, you can maybe see the color difference there, would zing it up just a little bit, and it did. But you know, the same way you can do that is right here with a dip in your salsa, a dip in your avocado cream, and my goodness, this is still hot, so this could be interesting. Hot, but crunchy and cheesy and meaty and oniony. I haven't hit a tomato yet, but that was just the first bite, and there's plenty of that right here. So there you go. Manchurian tacos, not too terribly difficult. A weeknight dinner. Make taco night just a little bit more fancy. The last 2 are in there. Keeping an eye on those, and we'll see you next time.